Hello, is it a gentleman, lady? How's everybody doing this evening?
We doing fine, champ. You ready for next week?
I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready.
Hey, what's going on? What's happening? What's going on? Another episode of Knucklehead Chronicles podcast, man. Here's the boy, the guru. We are at it again, man. We are back at it. Listen, man, I missed y'all. I realized that I only did one episode since last week. I did one episode last week. I did the, my last one was the race and racism one episode. I'll be listening to that. If you did, go back and check that out. I did race and racism after the Super Bowl halftime show. Everybody was talking about Eminem and all that jazz. And so, yeah, there's that. So we are back. We're back into the origin. This is episode 7. I tell you guys, when I'm telling you my story, and it's not just for, it's not just me telling the story because I don't have anything else better to do, right? I'm telling you my story because I want it to help someone, right? Just to be clear there. I got some real supporters and real fans out there, and I want to say really appreciate. Shout out to everybody who listens to the podcast on a regular basis. I think I shouted out Lalaki one week, and I think this week it's going to be the sister girl Jess on TikTok. It's amazing the support that I get, and whoever else listens on a regular basis, man, thank you for listening and downloading and supporting and all of that. I really appreciate you. But if my content, if what you hear from me is good enough or is good to you, make sure you share it with everybody else, so that they can partake in all this goodness as well. Now, this podcast is played and performed on all social media platforms: iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Apple Podcast, you name it, it's there, right? So there's no excuses. There's no excuses. All right. So before I get to episode 7, man, I'm gonna crank up a new segment on this podcast called, man, what did he say? What did he say? Okay, so on this episode, on the very first, the initial episode of What Did He Say? Listen, those of you guys may or may not know, I am a huge fan of TikTok, and I'm on TikTok all the time. And so last night I was strolling on TikTok, and there's this young man who does, he has a series that he does called People Who Fell Off. He said people that are one-hit wonders and then fell off. That's his series that he does. And so the episode he did last night, or the video that I saw, he comes on and he says, rap artists who made one hit and fell off, part 32. That was the video. And the rapper he was referring to, the video starts playing "Hey Ya" by Outkast, right? So who's sitting there? I'm sitting there, I'm watching this video, and he was like, the premise was one-hit wonders that fell off. And then he plays "Hey Ya" by Outkast? Okay. So immediately I duet the video because I think it's just crazy. And I'm like, see, what did he say? Like, why would he even say that? But he couldn't have been over the age of 22, so I kind of had to give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, Andre 3000, man, come on, man. Come on. You know what? I want you to do me a favor. Please, sir, young man, please do me a favor.
I'm going to tell you like this. If you don't shut your ass up, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Because it doesn't make any sense when you say stuff like that. That's blasphemous against the outcast and the house of that's blasphemous. Stop doing that. Excuse me. Oh, man. So we're going to get into part 7. So listen, part 7. Now, if you remember back in part 6, so you have to go back and listen to part 6. If you don't remember, you're going to have to go back to part 6. So at this juncture in the game, part 7, I have already left Chicago on a whim. Just left, got on the plane because I talked to my ex. I talked to Minnie Pearl, and I got on the plane because I don't know, some kind of spiritual force. Not really sure. But anyways, got on the plane, went to Chicago. Upon arriving in Charlotte, realized immediately that I made a mistake and that I shouldn't have done that. I ended up staying with Minnie Pearl all of 3 days, I think it was, maybe 4, I can't remember. But it was hell, and I felt like I was in a torture rack the entire time I was there. So I told, like I said in episode 6, I did get a chance to talk to Strawberry on the phone. I expressed my deepest, full-fledged begging mode, So we talked, and she decided to come down. Like I said in episode 6, she was going to make her way down. Her sister's boyfriend was going to bring her down, was going to drive her down, her and the kids. And somehow, he tried to, I can't think of the word right now. He tried to, dang it, I can't think of it. Seduce. He tried to seduce her. So I'm sorry, I can't remember anything. So he tried to seduce her. She wasn't having it because she was in love with me. And so she was just like, she called me. I remember calling her because I was by this time, I'm at my mom's house because I left Minnie Pearl. Like, I just can't with you. And so she got, though they didn't even make it out of Chicago. That's how, bad it gotten. So she ended up getting on the Greyhound, put all the boxes that she had to collect the kids' clothes because she didn't have any furniture. We didn't have anything, right? So we just kids' clothes and all that. So she gets on the Greyhound, comes down in North Carolina. She got there on a Sunday, and my dad, who those of you guys may or may not know, my mother and father were both ministers and pastors, and my dad had his church, which is a storefront, down in my hometown, and the Greyhound station was about 3 doors down, right? So I was at church that Sunday. I already knew she was coming in that Sunday at the Greyhound. So I get to the bus comes, I see them, and I don't think I've never been more happy to see a bunch of people in all my life. And, so they get off the bus, I'm sorry. And I'm just and for some reason this weekend I had my children. I had my oldest girl, and then I had my baby girl that Sunday weekend. Normally, I'll never have them on the weekends, but I had them that weekend for some reason. Can't remember how. Anyway, so it was a whole big old family reunion. Now, mind you, Strawberry and I at this point in the game were not married. Right, we were not married, and so my father, who's avid Jesus, you ain't gonna stay up in here if you ain't married, right? So they would not allow us to be together. So I went and stayed with my grandma, and for a couple of days, and it was longer than that actually. Oh no, actually we had to stay at grandma's, me and her both, because my dad and mom wouldn't let us live together or shack up, as it were, because we were not married. So we ended up staying with my grandma. That wasn't a bad thing. Grandma's pretty cool. Grandma's always cool. The only thing about grandma, though, is that she smoked a lot of cigarettes, and she was up. First thing, she was the first one up. I mean, when I tell you that, because we slept on a pull-out couch, right? So we were in the living room. My kids her kids slept with her, and Kiana, the youngest baby, she slept with me and her mother. And so, my grandma only had a 1-bedroom apartment. So the struggle was real. You hear me? So we had some very interesting times. I mean, the kids went to school there, and they caught the bus, and it was interesting. It was interesting. So like I said, grandma would be up at the crack of dawn. You know, first thing, as soon as the sun cracked through the sky, she was up, and she would make breakfast every morning. She would make her coffee, and she would make her a pot of grits and fry her a couple pieces of sausage. But she would burn the sausage to the point where the smoke would be in the house and it would choke the crap out of you. That's that's what Grandma did. Oh, I love her. I miss her so much. I need to call her. Now that reminds me. So anyways, so that was kind of our thing. That's how we started our North Carolina. Kiana, who was the baby, she was a couple months. We stayed at my grandma's for a little while. I think about a month and a half. Kiana, who just turned, who made one at my grandma's. We had her birthday party and everything. That was cool, right? So grandma was like one day, we was having a conversation one day, and she says, honey, she said, baby, I love you, but you gonna have to go. Ain't no room here. You know? Ain't no room here for everybody. You know what I'm saying? We endured it for a minute. I mean, we endured it because grandma wanted to help me out, and mom and dad wasn't having it. So, we had to proactively start looking for a home. Now, at the time, my mindset was like, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let me stay right here, And yeah, grandma was like, yeah, you got to go, So we found us a house, and we moved into this house, and it was a beautiful house. It was it was one of in my hometown. I keep telling you guys, my hometown is small. You know what I'm saying? So everybody know everybody. Houses have been in the same spot for years. And the house that we moved into was a house I remember seeing as a kid, but didn't really know, right? But come to find out, it was the house of a former classmate of mine. But I didn't find out until years later. I was like, oh yeah, I remember you. I remember that. I mean, we used to live there. And so we lived in that house. And we had an awesome landlord. His name was Theodore Carr. And if you guys listen to this podcast and you from Anson County, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Theodore Carr. And he was good to us. He really was. And we had struggles, and we just did not always make the right decisions. Or should I say, I didn't make the right decisions all the time. So we're living, and now mind you, at this point in the game, we did not have a car. So we were taking taxis, and family members, mama would take us everywhere. Mom and dad they'll pick us up on Sundays, bring us to church, and all that. So the struggle was real, but we did it together. Now mind you, we're about from the time I left Minnie Pearl in Charlotte, and the time I spoke to her again, it might have been 6 months, right? I don't know what the hook was, what the hook gonna be. I don't know what the hook was, but I always ended up contacting her for whatever reason. And so this one time I called her up, and I think I was mad at Strawberry for some reason or whatever. And I was like, okay, let me call her up. And now mind you, me and Strawberry at this time are still not married. This is in 2002, right? So me and Strawberry still not married. So I call up Minnie Pearl. And she comes down to pick me up. I call myself leaving Strawberry again. Now I know what you're thinking. You done left her twice. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. I didn't know at the time. I did not know what was wrong with me. I just know I kept doing stupid stuff. It kept hurting this woman, right? So, Minnie Pearl comes to get me. I pack up all my stuff, take my PlayStation, the whole 9 yards, right? At the time, the PS2 was out back in them days, but So she came home and the PlayStation was gone. So she knew I was gone at that point. Again, it's one of those things when you make a decision, you know immediately you made a mistake. Yeah. But I think looking back on it now in hindsight, it wasn't a mistake. It was truly a choice. Because I could have just said, no, I'm not, no. But I didn't do that. I followed whatever logic in my head I was following. Now, this second time I went and go to Mini Pearls, she wasn't as forgiving and she wasn't as, okay, they'll let you go back. No, this time I had to fight my way out this time. So I go up there, call myself leaving Strawberry. I go to Mini Pearls and, she makes me this big old steak dinner. I mean, I guess she thought I was some kind of food whore or something. And maybe I was, I don't know. But she made me this big old dinner and she just thought we was going to get back to normal. She just knew that we would just get back to normal. The first night I spent the night, I was like, yeah, no, this is not going to work. So the very next morning, I leave in her truck, or I make the attempt to leave in her truck and to go and call Strawberry up again and say and beg her forgiveness again. Beg if I can come home again. So it was a fight. Mini Pearl. I mean, when I said, she was like, "You going back to that girl, ain't you?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? You going back to that girl, ain't you? I ain't gonna let you." And she was like, "If you want to go back to her, you're gonna have to do it over my dead body." I mean, it was like legit. She was gonna, she pulled out a knife on me and everything. She was like, "If you're gonna go, you're gonna leave here bleeding. That's for sure." And I was like, "Oh my God!" And so I can't even remember how I got out. I can't. I honestly cannot. I just know that I did. And then I get back home, and I get back home, and she texts me. Strawberry texts me back. It was a struggle. It was a struggle because I had hurt her so many times. I mean, I can't even imagine. So the struggle was real, and we make it through. I mean, I think I think there's a lesson. There was a lesson in there. Is that, fellas, if you listen to this, listen. Just because she forgives you, don't mean that she is over it. Doesn't mean that she's completely healed from it. She just forgave you because she didn't want to harbor those feelings no more. Right? That's what I learned with Strawberry. Years later, though, I realized that even though she forgave me, even though we started back having sex, even though, whatever, men, because we're kind of simple-minded, right? If I can be honest, sometimes men are simple-minded, and we think, oh, we don't screw the pooch, and then we have to suffer the consequences. But when they go back to normal, we think it's okay. It's not. It's really not. And so I had to walk out that beating. I had to, that emotional beating. I had to, right? So, but I'm telling you guys, I was a glutton for freaking punishment, man, like legit, right? So me and Strawberry, we get back on good terms. We both working at the chicken plant down there. We're working, we're making money, we're paying the rent, we're raising our kids, We're getting back, right? So the story shifts. One day, we wake up to get ready to go to work. It was on a Monday. I never forget this. And I see headlights outside. It's really strange, Like, mind you, from the time I left Manny Pearl the last time, and she put a knife on me, to this situation, it was probably like 2 months. So I hadn't seen or heard from Manny Pearl about 2 months. So I go out I go to my door, and I see the headlights to her truck, like not in my driveway, but around the corner where I can. There was some trees like in my front yard, so somebody could pull in by the trees and stay out of sight from my front door. So she was out. I mean, she was literally stalking me. She was stalking me. Come to find out, what happened was that she called down to my grandmama's and talked to my aunt, who has passed away. God, rest in peace, Auntie Burnett. And she talked to Burnett, she claimed she talked to my Aunt Burnett, and that she told her that I was in trouble. I needed to come down there, and she needed to come down there and rescue me. This nature. I mean, just really, really stupid stuff, right? So, on the strength of what my auntie said, or what, like I said again, what she portrayed to me, she comes down there and try to rescue me. So, at this point in the game, I just had enough, because I don't know what I'm doing. If you were that obsessed with me, if you loved me like that, you should have did what you needed to do. You would never treat me like crap when I was with you. I don't understand. So at this point in the game, I just had enough, right? So my strawberry gets up, gets dressed, go to work. Now, mind you, we had two separate rides, because I had to be at work later in the day than her. She had to be there. She had to be at work a little early. So she left with her ride, right? And my ride comes maybe 10, 15 minutes later, maybe 30 minutes later, I can't remember. So I get in my car. I get in my car with my ride, and we're leaving. Minnie Pearl gets in behind us, right? Tries to run us off the road, right? Run us off the road. Now, from where we lived to where we ended up stopping at, it was about a mile, maybe a mile and a half. So I got to she was following us. And I was like, what in the world is her problem? So we pull over, and I get out and I confront her. Finally, what are you doing? And she was like, well, you're mine, you belong to me. I don't know why you with her. Da 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 da. I mean, went through a whole spiel about how I belong to her. No, because if I belong to you, you would treat me like a man, whatever. So, long story short, we ended up getting into a physical altercation in the parking lot of this grocery store. We ended up getting into a physical altercation. When I tell you on the strength and on the level of the shame that I felt for putting my hands on this woman, but it was so over her, and at the time, it was bananas. It was just beyond bananas. So again, she carried around her trusty knife. I mean, she almost stabbed me in this altercation. I mean, it went left quick. So I ended up calling the cops. Cops came, they ended up taking her to jail because she had a weapon, and I got in my ride's car and went my ride, a straight trooper stayed the whole time and took me on to work, and was no big deal. And my strawberry never knew. Strawberry never knew what had happened. So that was that incident. And she went to jail. She was mad at me, and I can imagine she was though. But I was just like, I can't believe you did all that. You went through all that nonsense to come down here to try to snatch me from this woman, knowing you don't want me, and me knowing I didn't want her. Like, I don't, we went to the next lesson. Message, man. Stop the cap. If you don't want to be with that person, man, don't be with them. You know what I'm saying? Stop the dragging along. And see, and me and real bad about it, right? Because we don't want, we got that whole, a lot of us have that whole, if I can't have her, no one can have her type mentality, right? And that is a bad mentality. That's a dangerous mentality to have, because that means you'll pop a cap with somebody just to keep her from being with somebody else, which is crazy. But anywho, So we get past all that. Like I told y'all, I'm not done. I think I got man. So again, me and Strawberry, we get married finally. After all the nonsense, all the horse crap, I know you guys are thinking like, what? Why? Why did she marry him after all of that nonsense? When I realized, and she told me this is something she admitted to me years later. The reason why she married me and stayed with me after all that nonsense was because she did not want to go back to her mother's, and she did not want nobody to tell her that she failed. So it was the fear of the "I told you so" is what kept her from being, to staying with me. So I say that to say this is that if you're listening to this right here, you listen to my voice right now, and if you're in the middle of something and you're in it because you don't want to hear that "I told you so," get ready to catch that L or hold that L and ready for that "I told you so." It might even be an L. It might be something that's going to better you, right? But do not stay in something that is not comfortable for you. Do not stay in something because you don't want to hear that "I told you so." Do not stay somewhere because the fear of the fear of having to go back home. There's nothing wrong with starting over. I can count on hands and toes how many times I've been back home. Started over. Anywho, we got married. January 23rd, 2003. Okay. I'll tell you, the spirits were actually telling us we probably shouldn't have got married. It was so many different omens, right? So I'm gonna tell you what happened on our wedding day, and then I'm gonna get at him. I'm gonna exit this episode. I'll leave the rest of episode 8, 9, and 10. So I told you got married on the 23rd of January 2003. So the day before, the 22nd of January, we had an ice storm to come through my hometown. Right, snow, ice, more ice than anything, but it was a lot of snow. But so the day before, the storm came through. That morning, we woke up and our water was off. Right, so don't let nobody I'm gonna tell you something. The utility folks don't give a crap if it's snowing, rain, sleet, tornado, whatever. If your bill due and you ain't paid it, they cutting you off. It doesn't matter what's going on that day, they cutting you off. Please know that. Anyhow, we get up the 23rd, our water's off. Right? I'm like, okay, so as a man, I had to go handle that. Again, we ain't got no car. Now, from where I live to where the water department was downtown, in my hometown. Maybe 2.5 miles walking, and I hate walking. But coupled with that is having to walk in the snow. I told you we had ice storm, snow, and ice that day. So that was bad. So I had to get up, I had to put on clothes, I had to trek to the water department for them to pay my bill, so they could send out a crew to cut my water back on. So I got down there. I got there 30 minutes before utilities open. So I had to wait 30 minutes after I walked 2 hours. Right? Yeah, I'm bad with time, but it took me a long time to get there. Nonetheless, I paid the utility, get the lights cut on. To get the water cut on. I walked back home in the snow. Right? I know this is a stupid story. I'm sorry, y'all. But so I went back home, and because of the storm, we did not know whether or not the courthouse was open, because that was our wedding date was already set. We already knew what we was gonna do. So with everything that happened with the water and like, oh my God, this is over. Maybe we shouldn't get married today, right? So we ended up calling the courthouse to see if they were even open. Right, called the courthouse. Courthouse was open. And so we make our trek to the courthouse. right? Now the kids, they were with my parents, so it was just me and her. You know what I'm saying? And so we make the trek to the courthouse, and we go to the magistrate. We already had a license, right? But we didn't have anything else. We had our license. So we go to the magistrate. We're gonna do the whole justice of the peace thing and all that jazz. So we get to the courthouse and the magistrate's like, or the folks at the courthouse was like, you guys don't have any witnesses? Like, nah, like we supposed to have those? You know what I'm saying? So we had to leave the courthouse, walk back. I didn't, it was snowing. It was a storm. Nobody's coming out in that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, the thought, So we leave. We just like, at this point, we're defeated. Like, we're not going to get married today. So we leave the courthouse. We're walking back home. And we stop by the barbershop. Now, the barbershop is on the way where I got my haircut at. And I walked in there. And my guy, they cuts my hair. My barber at the time, his name was Garrett Snuggs. And back home, they call him Type. And so I walked in there. Garrett was there, and another young man by the name of Emmanuel, I think that's what his name was. And he was like, "Hey man," I walked down. It's like, "Hey man, listen, me and my wife me and my girl want to get married, but we don't have any witnesses." Garrett looked at me and said, "Say less." And we got in the car, went on down back down to the courthouse. He drove us down there, and we got married. And he was our witness, him and Emmanuel. And I tell you, it was a trying day because I think about all the stuff that I went through, with her. Still in the moment of being selfish because I didn't think about what she was thinking. But I guess I don't know, but I know for me it was a struggle, right? Because I'm like, man, how did I get this lucky? How is this woman still on my side after everything? But I said, well, I'm not gonna turn down God's blessings. That's God's blessings. I'm not gonna question it or nothing like that. But it gave me pause just for a second. It gave me a real sort of pause. So we got married in 2003, and that's where that story ends right there. But things got even more trickier. Minnie Pearl made one more appearance before this thing was over. But if you have to, you have to check out episode 9 to get that, which will air in a couple of days. But right now, as it stands, 2003, we're married. We're happy for the time and all that. And Minnie Pearl makes one more appearance before she's done. Right? But you guys, I'm going to get out of here. I want to thank everybody who listened to the podcast. I appreciate you. You can always follow the podcast on buzzsprout.com/the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. You can email me at the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast at gmail.com. All right. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.